Hi there. I guess it's probably day 7 or 8. Let's see. Just rewatched my last video. In case you were wondering, I was watching cars go by. Hadn't seen a car in about 3 or 4 days, so that was pretty fascinating to me. um, last last 3 nights down here have been pretty cold. Probably in the mid 20s, maybe low 20s. Um, the worst of the 3 nights was, let's see, the night after I got back to Neels Gap. We stayed in Neels Gap. There was probably, a dozen hikers or so down there. Everybody pretty much left the trail that afternoon, basically to avoid the rains that were coming. And the rains were pretty heavy. They lasted all morning, so I think that was like day 5. I got back to the trail in the afternoon. Hiked about 4.5 miles that afternoon in the rain pretty much. Got to a place called Baggs Creek Gap. By the time I got there, my boots were wet, feet were wet, pants were wet. I had my raincoat on, but I mean, you were just soaked. Everything was soaked. Luckily, my bag was dry and everything inside my bag was dry, because I wouldn't have stayed. I would have had to turn around and go back to Neels Gap if it wasn't. Set up camp probably around, let's see, we left Neels Gap at I think it was around 1:30. There was 3 of us. Probably got camp set up around 3:30, 4 o'clock, I'm guessing. Had had a little tarp, set up the tarp and kind of put our bags underneath there, so that we could kind of set up our tents, and then get everything into our tents. Let's see. Yeah, no, that was a tough night. Of the 3 nights that it got cold, that was certainly the toughest. You know, we were wet. The wind that night was a steady 20 miles an hour blowing through Baggs Creek Gap. I mean, it was just absolutely brutal. Temperature dropped down to probably, I don't know, mid to high 20s. Looking at my little wind chill chart on the back of my thermometer, it said that the air temp feel was probably about -4 degrees, and I believe it, because it was cold. Probably only got about an hour's worth of sleep that night. It was an experience. I was laying there the whole night wondering if my tent was going to hold together, because I mean, the wind was just nonstop. I had my tent set up among probably 4 or 5 big oak trees, and every time the oak trees would rock hard or twist or whatever they did up in the air, the roots underneath my tent would like pop and twang, and it would almost move my air mattress. It was the freakiest thing. I've never experienced that before, so that was kind of a new thing for me. Yeah, so the 3 of us made it through the night okay. I had my doubts. Certainly had my doubts. That was the toughest night out here thus far. 2 nights ago, it got down into the mid 20s, but the wind wasn't too bad. We were on top of another little knoll, probably about 15 miles south of where I am now, I guess. And last night, it was cold, but it was really nice. We were on top of Rocky Mountain, so we were at about 4,000 feet in elevation. We had like a panoramic view of the forests here in northern Georgia. It was pretty cool. Once again, got down to low 20s, but there was no wind, so I mean, that's the big difference. So all the the first 3 or 4 days, you could see the little violets sprouting everywhere, and the little crocuses and all kinds of little plants. And the deep freeze that we got the other night just killed everything. So even the rhododendrons took a hit. I think they're a much hardier plant or whatever, but a lot of their leaves looked pretty bad. Trails were icy, but that was kind of That was kind of a blessing in disguise, I guess, because before, when we hiked up out of Neil's Gap, everything was muddy. There was water running down the trails, and it was pretty nasty. To wake up and see everything all froze solid was, um, yeah, it was kind of like a little blessing in disguise, I guess. The hardest part, I think, was putting my boots on, my hiking boots. My hiking boots were soaked, so they were a block of ice the next morning. And I didn't untie my shoelaces before I went to bed. I just kind of ripped them off my feet. And so trying to get my boots untied in the morning was brutal, especially where my hands were so cold. But yeah, so like I said, I think it's the end of the first week out here. Starting to feel pretty good. Still doing, averaging 8 or 9 miles a day, which, you know, that's pretty good right now. I got to boost up my number here soon, but certainly by the time we get to the Smoky Mountains. But for now, doing pretty good, feeling pretty good, starting to get some legs. A lot of the pain that I had the first 3 days is pretty much gone. Starting to be hungry. I'm eating 3 times as much as what I'd eat at home. Really starting to burn through some calories. So yeah, all right, headed north. Talk to you later.